A naked man has little to no influence on society. In clothes like this, you step out and you know that you're going to turn heads. You know that you're going to create an impression of a person who cares deeply about the way they look and has a finer eye for detail. And, that seems to be the Bombay Shirt Company way. What I really love about these clothes, and I really mean this, is this looks like a man has walked into the room. I like that. It's nice.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. Today we touch on a concern that is both important but also largely unconsidered. The southern states fear they are being penalized both economically and politically for their success in population control. What is the cause of their concern? Are they right to feel this way? And what should we as a nation do in response? My guest today has written about this in a recent article for the Financial Times. Joining us now to talk about his analysis is the former Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Duvvuri Subbarao. Dr. Subbarao, in a recent article you've written for the Financial Times, you say, and I'm quoting, southern states are being penalized both economically and politically for their success in population control. Let's take that up one by one. Can you start by explaining in what sense are southern states penalized economically?
Thank you for that opening question, Karan. The opinion piece I wrote for the Financial Times that you referred to was triggered by the comments of chief ministers of two southern states, Chandrababu Naidu of Andhra Pradesh and Stalin of Tamil Nadu, both of whom on several occasions in the past 1 year have urged their people to have more babies. Although the two of them nuanced the issue differently, the underlying message was the same. Look, we're losing out because of our success in population control. Our populations are growing more slowly than populations of northern states. But central resource transfers are a function of populations. Therefore, we're losing out because of population control. We become victims of our own success. Let me dissect a little bit to give a sense of what I'm saying. Central resource transfers to states take place in several routes. I just want to mention 2 or 3 of them. The most important is the Finance Commission, tax devolution. We know that for every rupee of tax that the central government collects, it gives away 41 paise to states. For every rupee it gets to keep, only 59 paise, give 41 paise away to states. How that 41 paise is distributed across states is determined by a formula that is heavily weighted by population. So higher the population, the more you get. The second route of transfer, important route of transfer, is centrally sponsored schemes such as the Rural Employment Guarantee or the ICTS or Ayushman Bharat or Swachh Bharat. Although not exactly formula driven by population, these centrally sponsored schemes funds also flow roughly in proportion to population. And the third dimension I want to mention is this central investment. Investment in hard infrastructure such as roads, railways, ports, airports, or even soft infrastructure like an IIT or an AWIMS, which favor states. So states which have controlled population, particularly southern states, have felt bitter that they're losing out on central transfers to states because of the success in population control. That's at the heart of what I'd written in the Financial Times.
Now, in fact, you write, and I'm quoting you, because prosperous southern states like Tamil Nadu contribute more to the national tax pool but receive less in return, less than a rupee for every rupee sent, whilst in contrast, northern states with higher populations and lower per capita incomes often receive more than they contribute. As a result, southern states are beginning to question whether they are being unfairly burdened. In your opinion, are they in fact being unfairly burdened?
Well, whether they're being unfairly burdened is a matter of opinion. But the perception that South Indian states are being unfairly burdened is firming up, as I just talked about. Like you mentioned, for every rupee that Tamil Nadu contributes, for example, to the state central tax pool or even Karnataka, they get back less than a rupee. On the other hand, northern states with a higher population, such as Bihar, UP, Jharkhand, for every rupee they contribute, they get back more than a rupee. That means there's cross-subsidization from southern states to northern states. Some amount of cross-subsidization is inevitable, in fact desirable. It happens in every federation. But a question that's come center stage in India is whether this cross-subsidization has gone too far, whether southern states are being unfairly burdened by the burden of cross-subsidization. Certainly that perception is growing in the southern states, as evidenced by the statements on comments of chief ministers of southern states.
And the problem is that the perception, even if it may not be established as a concrete, irrefutable fact, but the perception that southern states are being unfairly burdened strikes at what you call the heart of federal equity. When better performing states are contributing more than they receive, you say the compact of cooperative federalism begins to fray. How seriously is that fraying happening at the moment?
Well, let's understand what a federal compact is. In every federation, India is no exception, in every federal country is glued together, is bound together by a federal compact, which is often unwritten but broadly understood. That federal compact is that states or provinces which get together into a union, give up the freedom to tax, give up the freedom to have their own laws, give up the freedom to push their own ideology. These are costs they're incurring. For what? For the benefit of joining and being part of a larger union. Let me put that in concrete terms. For example, today, let's say India breaks up into 29 different countries, 29 different states, become 29 different countries. Each of them will be a small economy, a small country, which will not count for much in the global system. On the other hand, by getting together as one country into the Indian Union, we are a large economy, the fourth largest in the world. We are the largest population, 1.45 billion people. We have enormous global heft. So states have gotten together, they're incurring some costs, but they're getting benefits. And as long as they find that the benefits exceed the costs, the federal compact holds. But the question today is that federal compact fraying because of the unfair burden that we talked about?
And the fear is that that perception leads people to believe that the compact is fraying. The perception determines the outcome rather than facts.
Well, the facts also determine to some extent. If you look at the numbers, the resource flows from the center to states. Relative shares of South Indian states have gone down over the years. So there are facts, but beyond the facts, there is the perception that we are probably going to lose even more as we move on. So there is that fear among South Indian states.
Let me ask one more question about how southern states view the tax arrangement between North and South. Is GST in danger of becoming another fault line in the North-South divide? Many people fear that could be the case. What's your opinion?
See, first of all, you remember that we shifted to GST in 2016. Before that, we had at the state level sales tax and VAT. The earlier regime of taxation, which is sales tax and VAT, is an origin-based tax. The GST is a destination-based consumption tax. This is one of the important differences between the two regimes. Again, let me give an example, illustrate what I'm saying by an example. Let's say a car is manufactured in Tamil Nadu and is sold to a dealer in Bihar. Under the earlier tax regime, the entire tax on every component and even at the point of sale was collected and appropriated by the government of Tamil Nadu. But now, under GST, the tax at the final point of sale between the producer in Tamil Nadu and the dealer in Bihar is collected by the central government as IGST and passed on to Bihar. So the result is that part of the tax collection at the final point of sale, the consumption tax, is going to the state that is consuming the car. So Bihar gets part of the tax proceed. In fact, you recall that the GST negotiations were excruciating. They spread over a decade. And there were many issues, many tensions, many conflicts. This demand or concern among manufacturing states, particularly in South India, that they might lose out because of GST was one of the issues, but it's been ironed out. But I want to point out that there's a counter-argument to this, which is quite important. The counter-argument is that Tamil Nadu, because of being part of India, is able to access the larger market. Imagine if Tamil Nadu was an independent country, it produces a car, it can sell in Tamil Nadu, but if it wants to sell in Bihar, it's got to export the car with all the tariff and non-tariff barriers. That's why they say the GST was India entering into a free trade agreement with itself. So Tamil Nadu, by being part of the country, is now able to access the larger market. As much as it is suffering some loss in tax because of GST, it is also gaining because of the ability to access the larger Indian market. Finally, I want to say that the GST has been a national project. Some give and take is inevitable in any project like this, but the rising tide lifts all the boats, and maybe some boats higher initially, but eventually all the boats will rise, and that's what's happening in the country. So,
can I interrupt and put this to you? What's the conclusion that you're coming to? Are manufacturing states like Tamil Nadu, as a result of GST, losing some measure of revenue? Or is that again a perception only and not a fact?
Then, see, if you take the larger picture, they're perhaps not losing much. Because, as I said, they might be losing some in some part of the GST, some part of the tax, but they're able to access the larger market. So, yes, compared to the previous regime, they're losing a bit of tax, but the GST has been collectively good. The market, the tax buoyancy is higher, tax compliance is higher. Everybody's benefiting, so is Tamil Nadu, or every southern state, indeed even western states like Maharashtra and Gujarat.
So it swings and roundabouts and it evens out in the end.
I would think so, although I've not seen any research so far which has gone into the numbers. Some people have done but partial research, but if you take everything into consideration, I believe that everybody is benefiting.
Against this background, Dr. Subbarao, let's come to the sense in which southern states are in danger of being politically penalized. Because they have effectively curbed population growth, they now face the prospect of losing parliamentary seats and with that political influence. This is because of the way delimitation, when it happens, will have its impact. Can you briefly explain this further?
Well, in a democracy with a universal franchise, every vote must have the same value. Every voter must have the same say, which means that the number of people for every constituency, in other words, the number of people represented by a member of parliament, should be roughly equal. They cannot be mathematically equal, but roughly equal. That is why Indian laws require that after every census, there would be a fresh delimitation in order to adjust so that there is equal representation across the country. That delimitation, which is supposed to have happened after every census, was deferred for 25 years, first time in 1976, when Mrs. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister. Again in 2001, for another 25 years, when Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. On both occasions, ostensibly, I believe, to control population and to avoid sudden political disruption. But because of this deferment, by 50 years, what's happened today is that there are some constituencies which have very large population, over 3 million, and there are some constituencies which have less than 1 million, even less than 500,000. So this disparity in the number of people represented by each member of parliament is in some sense distorting our democracy, and that's the main concern.
Absolutely. At the heart of our democracy is the principle of one person, one vote, one value. But if you have constituencies of 3 million vis-a-vis other constituencies of under 1 million, you clearly don't have one person, one vote, one value, which is why delimitation is needed to resolve this. And prima facie, delimitation then must be considered necessary. Otherwise, this discrepancy, this disproportion will continue. But on the other hand, if you do go in for delimitation, you come up slap bang against the concerns expressed by the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, M.K. Stalin. He says when delimitation happens, Tamil Nadu will lose 8 Lok Sabha seats, shrinking from 39 at the moment to just 31. This is why he calls delimitation a sword hanging over the head of South India. If this happens, it would be a cause of major grievance for a state like Tamil Nadu. They won't just be losing parliamentary representation, they'll be losing political influence, and the political balance between North and South will also be changing in favor of the North.
Oh, absolutely. I can quite understand the concern of Tamil Nadu Chief Minister. In fact, that is the concern of all South Indian Chief Ministers. Some have said it differently, but all of them are concerned about losing relative political representation. And resolving this requires enormous amount of political maturity, statesmanship at the state level and at the central level. In fact, there have been lots of suggestions thrown around about how to resolve this. I've written about it myself. My suggestion was, for example, to freeze delimitation on the 2011 population for the time being, and adjust over the next 25 years. Don't do a sudden change, but adjust 20% every 5 years starting 2031 and ending in 2051, so that there is a gradual adjustment to the new population levels.
Up to that point, your suggestion is to freeze delimitation at the 2011 population, not the 2025, 26, 27 population. However, if it were to be frozen at the 2011 population level, wouldn't anyway Tamil Nadu lose some seats? Or Kerala, or Andhra, or Karnataka? They may not lose as many as they would lose if it was frozen at the 2025, 2026 level, but even at the 2011 level, they will still lose some seats.
Well, they most certainly will, and that's inevitable because of the equal representation, one vote, one value that you talked about just now. But there are ways around it. One is to the gradual adjustment that I've spoken about. The other is, some people have suggested, I've read about it, I'm sure many of your audience would have read about it as well, to have the second house, the Rajya Sabha, represented equally by every state, like the US Senate. That every state has maybe 10 members, regardless of the population, so that the loss in the Lok Sabha is to some extent compensated by representation in the Rajya Sabha. In fact, you can have Rajya Sabha membership indexed to per capita income, so that states which have a higher income have higher number of seats. So some workaround is possible, but I believe that freezing delimitation or giving up delimitation for all time, I believe, is impractical and infeasible.
The suggestion that delimitation should be permanently frozen and given up for all time was made by Yogendra Yadav in an article that he wrote for the Indian Express in March this year. His explanation is that just as southern states have accepted that federal resources will be divided not on the basis of tax contribution, but on grounds of fairness and equity, so too northern states should accept that delimitation will be frozen so that the political influence of southern states is not diminished. In other words, it's a sort of, how should I put it, quid pro quo arrangement. Both sides would be making sacrifices for the greater good of the country.
Yeah, I have a lot of regard for what Yogendra Yadav says. He's a very erudite person. But on this issue, I'm not sure what he's suggesting will materialize, because it's a very difficult bargain to make. After all, every federal system is a grand bargain between the center and states. So now we're getting into a situation where it's a grand bargain between northern states and southern states that Yogendra Yadav is talking about. If something like that can come about, that's wonderful. But I don't believe that's feasible given our politics, given our economics. So we've got to settle for a solution that is less optimal than that. And I believe that if there is political maturity, statesmanship, large vision at the state level and at the central level, we can resolve this in a non-destructive way. Perhaps, some dissatisfaction on either side, but collectively optimal.
There is also a suggestion made by Home Minister Amit Shah to appease the concerns of southern states, particularly ones like Tamil Nadu. He has said that southern states will not lose seats. He's given an assurance that when delimitation happens, southern states will not lose seats. And the but is very important. Equally importantly, he has given no guarantee that the number of seats for northern states will not increase. This means that the political balance of influence between north and south will change in favor of the north. Even if the southern states don't lose seats, but the northern states gain seats, that critical political balance between north and south will swing to the favor of the north. That would be resented by the south. It would hurt and upset them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point of Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Stalin and other chief ministers. I've seen the statement of the Home Minister, and he said exactly what you quoted him as, which is he assured southern states that they will not lose any seats in it. I think he was being technically correct. In a sense, he was saying that you will not lose in absolute numbers. But he did not give any assurance connecting to that statement that northern state seats will not be increased. So even if southern states keep the seats as they are, if the parliament seats of northern states are raised, southern states will lose in relative terms. And that's the crux of the problem. And I'm surprised that the Home Minister has not been challenged on extending his statement and asking him to clarify what he meant. But yes, that is a big issue, and that issue has to be resolved.
And your conclusion as a result is pretty blunt. You write in that Financial Times article, in essence, the southern states feel doubly disadvantaged. They subsidize the less developed north economically, and yet they may soon lose ground politically. They feel that they're caught within a pincer, both sides attacking them simultaneously.
Yeah, that's a double whammy for southern states, and that's in fact why this issue has come center stage. That over the years, the amount of cross-subsidization has been increasing. Their relative shares in central transfers have been coming down. They feel shortchanged. They feel bitter. They feel that they're becoming victims of their own success. At the same time, they're going to lose political power. They have to subsidize northern states and at the same time lose political representation. So it's a double whammy for them, and they're doubly hurt. That's why this issue is being agitated with renewed vigor in the current context of the impending census in 26-27.
And I suppose what makes the problem worse for the southern states is the realization that whatever solution the BJP at the center, which is the ruling party of the country, comes to, is likely to be a solution that benefits the North, maybe not at the cost of the South, but certainly putting the South at a disadvantage. The problem is the BJP, the ruling party, would gain politically if delimitation grants more seats to northern states, where their hold on politics is considerably stronger than it is in the southern states. Doesn't this mean that the BJP will be inclined to go ahead with delimitation? They'll be inclined to grant more seats to the North, even if Mr. Shah keeps his promise that the South won't lose seats. And that will mean that the balance of political influence between North and South will swing in favor of the North.
I suppose that's what they'll be inclined to do. I'm not, a political scientist, but it is rational for a party like the BJP, which has stronghold in northern states relative to their political clout in the south. If there is an opportunity to consolidate their strength in those states, which can be done legally, they would certainly be wanting to do that. So the question is, to what extent will they accommodate people who are probably hurt by that delimitation, by northern states representation going up? To what extent will they give in? Will they negotiate for a grand bargain? Will they do it over a period of time? Will they look at the larger picture just beyond immediate politics? These are all issues that will come up.
Absolutely. But let me put it like this. The need to compromise, the need to find a solution that keeps the South happy, satisfied, and content would be in the wider, greater national interest. But the benefit of going ahead with delimitation and increasing seats for the northern states would be directly to the BJP's political benefit. And therefore, it's a toss-up between what benefits the BJP as a ruling party and perhaps ensures it wins yet another term, and what benefits the country as a whole. And when faced with that sort of choice, will the BJP opt in favor of something that benefits the country but costs the BJP politically? Or will it choose a solution which is perfectly legitimate and legal that benefits the BJP but leaves the South feeling upset and angry? That's
absolutely. We're in the realm of speculation at the moment, but we'll have to see how this debate develops, with what maturity, statesmanship, and larger vision our politicians will negotiate this. We have overcome several hurdles in the past. I'm hoping that this issue too can be resolved to the collective satisfaction of both North Indian and South Indian states, because ultimately we are one country.
That is, I'll point out, Dr. Subbarao, a hope. One doesn't know whether the hope will fructify and be realized. What does seem more certain, I would put it, is that we seem to be heading towards a period of greater political tension and discord between North and South. Let me end by asking you, could that adversely affect the Prime Minister's ambition of achieving Viksit Bharat by 2047?
Oh, yes, it certainly will. In fact, that's the conclusion of my Financial Times opinion piece. See, the Prime Minister said, and all of us want, that India should become a developed country by 2047, the centenary of our independence. The agenda for getting there is familiar, is complex, is politically painful. The first generation reforms that we did, back in 1991 and all through the decade of the 90s, they could be done by the central government acting on its own. For example, the first generation reforms are concerned with trade, investment, finance, dismantling the license permit regime, freeing up imports, freeing up foreign exchange, opening up the financial sector. All this could be done by the central government acting on its own. But subsequent second generation reforms, which have to do with factor markets like land reforms, labor reforms, farm reforms, investment reforms, taxation reforms, these cannot be done without the consent, in fact, the active cooperation of the states. We've seen this. We've seen this with FDI and multi-brand retail during the UPA years. We've seen this with farm laws and labor laws under the NDA government. So cooperation of states is essential to undertake the structural reforms, the governance reforms necessary to become a developed country by 2047. So whether we can get together to implement the reforms, whether the center and states can get together is a big question, is a big challenge.
Absolutely. And if you have increased discord between the states of the South and the states of the North, the getting together that is so essential for these second generation reforms may not happen smoothly, easily, or even quickly. That's the danger, that's the threat that looms on the horizon, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But I do want to say that, our federation has withheld several crises or several dissensions or several tensions in the past. Every federation in the world has had problems. Canada has, for example, had a Quebec separation moment. In Spain, there's the Catalan independence movement. In Nigeria, in Ethiopia, there are ethnic tensions. East Timor separated from Indonesia because of tensions over resource share. In relative terms, I think our federal compact is held. I'm hoping and confident that the compact will hold even under the present challenge.
Absolutely. And the interesting conclusion we've reached, which I'll reiterate for the audience as I end this interview, is a lot depends upon what course of action the BJP government ruling at the center takes. Will it opt for a solution that is in the wider national interest, but perhaps costs the party in political terms personally? Or will it opt for a solution which benefits the party politically, but leaves the South feeling aggrieved, upset, and hurt? We don't have the answer to that, but that is certainly the question that is posed by the discussion today. I thank you, Dr. Subbarao, for the time you've given me. Take care. Stay safe.
Thanks very much, Karan. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
A naked man has little to no influence on society. In clothes like this, you step out and you know that you're going to turn heads. You know that you're going to create an impression of a person who cares deeply about the way they look and has a finer eye for detail. And, that seems to be the Bombay Shirt Company way. What I really love about these clothes, and I really mean this, is this looks like a man has walked into the room. I like that. It's nice.